right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Sean Lowery Show. I have an awesome guest today, Matt Newman. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
Absolutely. And so for the listeners, Matt he's had an inspiring journey, and he's the author of the Starting at the Finish Line, and you're a speaker. You've done some TED Talks, right? And you've had one hell of a journey through life. So I left out in that little intro the most interesting part of your story, because I want you to kind of tell it. And why don't you tell the audience about you, who you are, and what journeys you've been through in your crazy life.
Yeah, it's funny. I one of the things I try to really accentuate is that we learn some of the greatest lessons in life at the deepest and darkest of times. We're given this new set of lenses that we could put on, and we see life differently. We have this perspective as we're growing up that we're Teflon, that we could take everything, that all the negativity happens to other people. But all of a sudden, we can get this new understanding on the fragility of life, the realness that's associated with it, depending on our age and how we digest that information. And what we could do is we could take that and we could utilize it, and we could understand the power of connection and realness and what love really means, or we could avoid it. The reality is these things happen for some type of reason. I used to believe in irony, and that all changed. I actually believe that I learned things at a younger age that were put into my system, that were almost like it was some type of crop that was planted down there that didn't bloom until later in life, and I was able to understand it. And that happened as I grew up in the house of my father was a financial advisor, and my mother was a school teacher. Two completely different types of occupations, but both planted this ability to learn something that would magnify later on in life. You know, we get these lessons that think are a waste of our time, but then later you're like, oh, I see what my mom and dad was saying.
Right.
So I remember graduating from the University of Delaware. Some of them like to refer to us in that situation as the Fighting Blue Hens.
Blue Hens.
I like to call it the ass-kicking chicken. But either way, I graduated from Delaware, and I remember Maya Angelou was giving her beautiful commencement speech.
Okay.
My parents come onto the football field afterwards, and my dad's giving me that look like, "Hey, man, way to go, graduate." I'm like, dude, the king has arrived, man, right? And he said to me, he goes, "What do you want to do now that you graduated?" I said, "Oh, Dad, that's easy. I'm going to become a financial advisor. I want to join your firm." My father's from the Bronx. I grew up in northern Jersey, right outside New York City. I'm going to clean my language up drastically for all your listeners in here. But at graduation,
you don't have to about it.
Wearing a beautiful blue cap and gown, all excited. My dad looked me in the face and goes, "There's no bleeping way you're joining my firm." Every picture of me at graduation, I'm just like, what a jerk.
You just found out then?
Oh, literally at graduation. And what you also realize is that it was giving me one of the greatest lessons in life. There's no free lunches. Go out and earn it. Go out, get your licenses, figure out if this is something for you, and then we'll talk in a few years. But it's on you, man. And as angry as I was, it just gave me more fight to find out what my path was, what my craft would be. So I became something called a wholesaler. And what a wholesaler is in financial services is we get the same licenses that financial advisors have. We pass the same tests, the same everything. But companies that manufacture mutual funds, 401ks, annuities, they'll send us to meet with advisors, and we'll try to show them why they should use our product versus others. And I remember right when I started, I passed all my tests. I did everything I needed to do. And my dad said, there's 3 things I want to take with you. I want you to take with you. I said, yeah, what's that? He goes, number 1, if you don't believe in the product or someone in your family wouldn't own it, don't sell it. Lose the battle to win the war. It's about building connection. It's about building realness. It's about building trust. I said, okay,
that's really cool.
Yeah. He said, number 2, always be honest. And honesty goes a lot longer than you think. And there's mistakes people make, but when you're truthful and you're honest with people, they buy into you. And number 3 was I got a soccer scholarship to college. He goes, you take that work. Yeah. It's like track with a ball, as I like to call it. And he said, you take those 3 things in your work ethic from that, put them together. And this could be something that's really great for you. So I moved down to Philadelphia. I was the Jersey Giants fan who moved into Philadelphia.
Oh, no.
I'll never forget moving down there and just being berated for wearing a jersey. And I'm looking around like, are you talking to me? Like, I don't know that. It's funny. As different as it was for sports, I moved into the Old City area, which is where Betsy Ross knit the flag, where the National Constitution Center is, the Liberty Bell. It was this infectious ambiance of young professionals, people in med school and law school. And I might have been the guy who grew up in North Jersey. I knew immediately Philly was home. I knew it immediately.
That's cool.
It was where I wanted to be. There was something just about it, this ambiance that was, I was building my life, and I couldn't have been happier to be down there. And my career started. And business started to go really well in the mid 90s. And then we had the big crash in 2000, the tech bust.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And business started to really shoot up. 2001, I became the number one guy in my company. In 2003, I became the number one person in my industry. And I remember my father.
How old were you at this point?
In 2003, I was 30 years old.
Okay. Yeah, right around
so
my age.
29, 30. And I remember my father calling me going, not bad, right? I'm like, yeah, not too bad. He goes, I think you should join my firm. I go, yeah, you can't afford me any longer. That's
you had your chance, buddy.
I found my craft. I found something I love doing. And what we constantly preached was the job of the financial advisor is to be there when things are bad, to give people good news at difficult times, to have a plan in place prior to the negative. Most people want life insurance when they can't get it. Most people want long-term care when they can't get it. Most people want a financial plan after they lose 30%. They're looking over the shoulder thinking, I should have done this before, when the job is to have a plan in place prior to the negative. Think of a football team. The entire week of practice is game planning for what's going to happen on a Sunday. It's nobody plans to fail. They fail to have a plan. And I will share this with you. And I did a TED Talk on this. I will 100% blame the U.S. education system for a lot of this.
Really?
They train us to go into the real world.
Yeah.
We learn subjects like social studies and science. And maybe some of us after high school, we go to college. Some of us start our career path. Some of us after college start our career path. And then others go into grad school, med school, law school, and you keep going up the ladder. Why is there no classes on what employee benefits are? Why is there no classes on what a 401k is? I'm not telling this should be a class on investing. That should be optional. But basic things. So bad things happen to young people and they didn't know what to do. And then they're filled with regret, resentment, and negativity because they've put other people in a bad situation. That is something that needs to be addressed and changed. And I will continue to talk about that because I was fortunate that I grew up in the house of a financial advisor. But more importantly, that was my craft.
Right.
So I would need to practice everything I preached. And I got married in 2006. And I remember my father sitting down with me that summer, because I'll do the math for you, about 9 months after our wedding, we were expecting our first child. I'll let you guys all figure that one out there. And we moved out to a place called Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania, right where Washington crossed the Delaware. As someone who has relatives in Philly, as you said, I know where that. Do you know where? If you know where New Hope is, that's right next to us, right there.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is.
We moved to this beautiful suburban, countryish area, but you're 30 minutes from Philly, you're an hour from Manhattan.
Yep.
And we moved there. And I remember my dad saying, he goes, what do you say every day? Our job is to be there when things are bad. Give people good news. Have a plan in place prior to the negative. The basics of financial planning have nothing to do with investing. It's legal documentation. It's your will, your power of attorney.
Right.
It's your life. It's things that don't cost any money, but it allows you, if you become incapacitated or something bad happens, your wishes to be carried out in the most efficient manner possible. This is basic stuff that the average person doesn't know, but you could even go on LegalZoom for $19 and do this kind of stuff.
People just don't think about it. Probably.
They don't think about it because they don't know it until something hits them. And then they realize it. So my dad, I remember him saying, did you do all this stuff? I'm like, Dad, most of it. I'm like, beast mode, man. Just did the Tough Mudder, just ran a Broad Street run right there. We do all this stuff. He goes, I thought you practice everything you preach. And I nodded my head. I said, okay. And I went and did all the things I needed to get done. It wasn't about the amount of money that you have. It was about, I was taking on more responsibility. I was about to become a dad.
Right.
I had an obligation to my family to make sure they're protected in some fashion, even though I think it wasn't going to happen. There wasn't anything going to trigger this, but it's about planning in advance. In 2010, my father-in-law got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He was 60 years old. It came out of nowhere. My first child was born in 2007. My second son was born in 2009, and my wife was pregnant with our third child. All three in about 3 years it was going to be. And it hit us pretty hard. My first experience with cancer happened when I was 15 years old. My Grandma Harriet, was diagnosed with cancer.
Jeez.
I wasn't old enough to understand it, to digest it, to really get what was going on. But one day she was Grandma Harriet. The next day she was wearing a cancer turban. And the next day she was gone.
Jeez.
What I do remember is the everlasting scars it put on my mother. My mother became a different person.
Really?
She cried every single day. Every day they were on the phone with each other. Every weekend they were at our house in Parsippany, New Jersey, watching me play baseball, or my brother, or we were at their house in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And the damage, I wish I could have hugged my mom more. I wish I could have been able to get it, but I was too young. It didn't make sense to me.
Right.
My wife and my father-in-law had a very similar relationship. I'm a Jewish guy who I said grew up in Northern Jersey with a dad as a financial advisor, mom as a teacher.
Teacher, right?
My wife grew up in a very different situation. She grew up in mining country, Pennsylvania, in Minersville. Unfortunately, all the mines have closed down there. It's become very opioid centric. I mean, there's these wonderful, beautiful people that are there, but it's become a very bad area.
My fiance actually is from Pottsville.
That's where my wife's from.
She wanted me to ask you if you know the restaurant Palermo's.
I've been to Palermo's many times.
It's her favorite place in the world. She's like, you got to ask if he's from Minersville. If you go,
I have been there many times, and if she's from Pottsville, she's probably seen. It's a different place now.
The area is not great.
It breaks my heart. But here's what I point out: my father-in-law is a highway construction worker. Okay. My mother-in-law is a janitor. They were Catholic, a different environment, but they were just unbelievably amazing people. And I heard all this negativity about in-laws and all this. I was blessed. They were wonderful. And when Larry, my father-in-law, got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, he said he had two goals. One was he wanted to see all three of his grandkids born. Number two is he wanted to be alive long enough that they'd have real life memories of him. He was a warrior. It was an inspiration to watch this.
Yeah.
My wife, 2 kids under 3, pregnant with a third, every day we drive him back and forth down to the University of Pennsylvania, a 45-minute ride without traffic, back and forth. She would take him down there. He would go through his Whipple procedure, surgery, then chemo, radiation. They never cried. They never bitched. They never complained. They were there for people when you needed them. It was an honor to watch this and to watch about putting family first and doing what you need to do. And actions speak louder than words. And it was humbling, and I was proud of my family.
That's amazing.
Unfortunately, pancreatic cancer, so he would actually sometimes be up in Hershey Hospital, which is the closest one up by Pottsville. But then we really embarked on the University of Pennsylvania. So what happened is, as this is going on, cancer is like a roller coaster. It goes up, down. It doesn't care about our feelings, our plans. It does what it wants, when it wants. And as this is going on, the average lifespan with pancreatic cancer is going to be about 6 months. And the reason it's so evil is you don't usually feel the symptoms of what's going on until it's already spread all over the place.
Oh, geez. That's the one Alex Trebek has of Jeopardy, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's an uphill climb. It's not unclimbable, but you're taking on a big challenge there, especially depending whether it's grade 3, grade 4. So as Larry's fighting, going up and down, chemo, radiation, on and off, my wife's driving him back and forth all the time. In 2013, that February, he's about 2.5 years into it. Amazing. And I'm driving on a cold, icy, miserable day in a town called Bridgewater, New Jersey. There's accidents all over the side of the road. It's one of those days I'm wearing my suit and tie and I'm like, I ain't dealing with this. I'm doing 25 miles per hour. This is bad. I'm driving on Route 202. As I get to the traffic light, I hit my brakes. Car hydroplanes right in the car in front of me, nails it, flips over, goes into the median. And I remember holding on to that steering wheel, thinking all that working out I do. That's for right now. That's for this. Airbags go off. Car's totaled.
What?
I walk away without a scratch on my body.
Wow.
Police come running out. They're like, dude, you got to get to the hospital right now. I'm like, no, man. Beast mode. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I call my wife. She's down with my father-in-law for chemotherapy as his roller coaster is going back down. And I tell her what happened. And she's like, you got to get to the hospital. I'm like, no, I'm cool. I'm
You really felt fine?
I felt fine. I felt no problem. And she said, don't forget about our friend Karen Mancini. Our friend Karen lives in a town called Bluebell, Pennsylvania, not too far from what we were talking about before.
It's my area, yeah.
That's right. So what happened is one day she's at a traffic light and a car comes flying down and T-bones her. So the police say, we should take you to the hospital just in case.
So you got to check, yeah.
3 hours later, the doctor walks in and goes, we want you to buy flowers and send a thank you note to the person that hit you. We found a brain aneurysm in you. You'd been dead in a few hours.
Jeez.
Thought about my kids.
That's incredible.
Thought about my wife. And like a type A personality, I rented a car and went on my way. When I got home that night, Larry's sitting in the room all beat up from chemotherapy. And my head is killing me. I've never really had a bad headache before. My wife suffers from something called chronic migraines. This is what it is. She gets them all the time. One of my kids gets them. And I'm just sitting there at the kitchen, the island in the kitchen, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, my freaking head is killing me. Did you go to the hospital today? No, I don't want to hear about it. Try getting chronic migraines. Over the next 2 weeks, the pain got more and more severe every day. And it got to the point where it was 24/7, nonstop, massive pain.
Jeez.
I probably about 2.5 weeks into it, I started to lose all ability to sleep. I would pass out on the couch next to Larry at 8:30. Me and him would be watching baseball. My life's goal was to make him a Yankees fan, get him off the Phillies. Mm-hmm. And as I would pass out at 8:30, I'd wake up at 10 o'clock in massive pain and couldn't go back to bed. Jeez. I would wake up I'd get up in the morning, I'd go train, I'd go work out, I'd do all the things that I do, but it was starting to catch up with me. And I'm giving a speech in that same town of Bridgewater, New Jersey, and I speak all over the country. I speak everywhere. I do all this stuff. Speaking is a natural thing for me. I understand what people want. They want realness. They want purity. They don't want some shtick. They want something that connects with them and hits them in the heartstrings. And I'm giving a speech on the necessity of planning and all this other stuff. And as I go to make a point, and I know everybody in the room.
Okay.
As I go to make a point, slur and gurgle just poured out of my mouth. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was going on, but I remember seeing myself standing outside my body going, you're having a stroke. You're having a stroke right now.
Jeez.
It felt like an eternity, Sean, like an eternity. Turns out it was about 5 to 6 seconds.
What?
I got myself together and I'm like, oh, dealing with a sinus infection. I didn't sleep well last night. Let's bounce back into this.
That's probably awkward in front of the crowd, right?
I don't think many of them caught on to it.
Really?
Because a lot of them that have seen me speak, they know the way I am. One of the heads of an area of BlackRock comes up to me at the end. He's a friend of mine for 20 years. He goes, yeah, dude, what was that, man? What are you talking about? He goes, I've seen you speak hundreds of times on stages. You don't miss a word. I go, yeah. Head's been killing me. And I have sinus infection. He goes, I'm going to tell you something I never told you before. When I was 6 years old, I got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I've been on anti-seizure medication since I'm 6 for 37 years. Dude, you got to get to the hospital right now. I go, shut up. What are you talking about? You're out of your mind. He goes, as your friend, I'm telling you, you got to go to the hospital right now. I got back to my car. I was pretty scared. Mm-hmm. Over the next month, they kept coming. I had one when I was training for the Broad Street Run.
So you didn't go to the hospital right after that?
No, I went to a doctor. And the doctor told me it was a sinus infection. I have no angst or anger at the doctors because probably 99.9% of the people that came in with what I had, it probably was a sinus infection. Right. I went back again, sinus infection. I'm training on the Delaware River towpath for running. Have one. Have one while I'm driving. Have a couple more while I'm speaking. And now I know how it works. I'll get a hot flash that hits me in the face. And then about 5 seconds later, it'll kick in. On May 14th, 2013, I'm giving a speech in my hometown of Parsippany, New Jersey. I got about 200-300 people in the room. Everything's going great.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, but what starts to happen is as I go to make a point for the 11th time, I feel a hot flash hit me in the face. Now I know the deal. I'm like, son of a bitch. I know I could turn my back on everybody, point to a PowerPoint or something like that to kill this 5 to 6 seconds. That was the moment I said, I'm going to the hospital right now. Yeah. Right now. I finished my presentation. 30 hands go up. Not bad, right? Yeah. This was my head dropped. I answered one. I said, oh my God, I'm running late. I am so sorry. I got to go. And these are all clients, man. These are people I've known for years. People asking me, hey, Matt, one quick question. This is going through my mind. If you don't get away from me, someone's getting put on the floor right now. That's not me by any stretch of the imagination. A couple of people walk me out to my car. Hey, one more question. I peel out of the parking lot. Jeez. That's not me. I call my doctor.
You obviously weren't in a good state.
I call my doctor. I go twice, sinus infection. I explained some stuff to him. He goes, you need to get to the hospital right this second. So I call my wife. I was down at the King of Prussia Mall on a little break from my father-in-law with his chemotherapy, who's again, the roller coaster is going back down. Right. And I tell her what's going on. So we're going to meet at a place called Capitol Health in Hopewell, New Jersey. Right on 95, just over the border of Pennsylvania, maybe 3 miles up, 5 miles from my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a 90-minute ride down and my head's all over the place.
Mm.
All right, maybe they're going to tell me, just take this medicine, you'll be fine. Maybe
Right.
maybe you're going to die. I just don't know. And so I get down there. My wife meets me in the parking lot. We hold hands, we walk in, and they tell me I got to get a CAT scan. I'm like, CAT scan? It's like an X-ray, no big deal. So they give me a CAT scan. 3 hours later, they come in and they go, Mr. Newman, we know the problem. I'm like, yes, let's diagnose it, fix it, make it go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a lesion on the left frontal lobe of your brain. And to me, a lesion's like a cut or a bruise. You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Freaking car accident, man. I guarantee the airbag went off. I went and just don't remember it, which is probably what caused the pain. It's causing massive pain, Mr. Newman. I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. That's what's causing you not to sleep. Yes. And you're not having strokes. You're having seizures in your speech and memory. And I thought of my friend from BlackRock.
Right.
Oh my God, he nailed this like 3 months ago.
He knew. Yeah.
I wasn't upset. I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I was like, yeah, that's the deal, man. All right, let's fix this thing. So they tell me I got to go in for MRIs and MRAs and all this other stuff. I'm in the tube, in and out, nonstop. And at 3 a.m, they tell me I got to go in for one more with contrast so they could see some other stuff. My wife, Rebecca, says, I'm going to go home. I'm going to make lunch for our kids that are all under 5. I'm going to find a ride for my dad for chemotherapy, and I'll be back in an hour. I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to be in this thing for an hour anyway. Take your time. So they come in and they go, Mr. Newman, all right, here's a wheelchair. We got to bring you down. I go, I'll walk down this time. I don't need the wheelchair.
Right.
They go, liability, Mr. Newman. You got to get in the wheelchair and we got to bring you down.
Right.
So I get in the wheelchair. The nurse comes up behind me, grabs the clipboard. All right, Mr. Newman, MRI, MRA. We need to see how big your brain tumor is. And I turn around, I go, it's a lesion. And that was the moment at 39. I was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Wow. What? Oh God. And in that moment, I can't imagine like just what was running through your head. I mean, it was difficult. I'm sure, obviously, like that was a moment in your life you'll never forget.
I'll never forget it, but strength is not how big your arms are. Strength is not how much you bench press. Strength is something that's located deep down in our bellies. And at those, again, deepest and darkest of times, we can find it, we can grab it, we can own it. I didn't know I had it in me, but once I saw it, I took it and I made this mine. And I remember going through the tube for an hour and 20 minutes and my head's all over the place. They'd bring me back to a room, plug me into 30 different machines. They're like, you're not going anywhere. And I started crying. And I started to have retrospective on my life. I got 3 kids under 5 years old. I got a wife who's taking care of her dad dying of cancer. And now her husband has brain cancer. And I started to question, there must be something I did for this. I'm a good dad. And I saw that strength. I grabbed it and I just started cursing my brains out. And the nurses who tell the story to this day come running in. They go, Mr. Newman, oh my God, are you okay? So I'm fine. That was my pity party. If I'm going down swinging. And it's not the amount of shape you're in. It's something that's there. And when you take that, and I get all the time, so how scared were you after? Never. Once I did that, I don't know where it came from. I didn't know I had it in me. But if I was going down, I'm going down swinging because I got way too much to fight for. And at no point did I anticipate it going the other way. You would think not. If I heard that about a friend, I'd be like, oh God, they're going to die. To me, boom, that got shut off. This is how we roll, and that's how we're going to do it.
That's incredible. So a real short pity party for yourself, and then instantly you had positive thoughts. And so you essentially had stage 3 brain cancer, right?
Grade 3, correct.
Grade 3. And do you still have it? Are you done? Are you cured?
So I'll give you.
How does that work?
So what happened is that Friday. This was on a Tuesday. That Friday, they were going to bring me in and give me a full craniotomy. You can barely see it here. Geez. They were going to cut half my head off.
I can't see it. Yeah.
They were going to take the tumor out. And I'll share that with you in a minute. They were going to take the tumor out. I wouldn't know for 10 days the severity of the tumor.
Okay.
And they would have to move my jaw back, and then I'd know what's going on. So they did surgery on Friday.
Jeez.
And which was, and then I was in the ICU. And we talk about wealth and health and how they're all interrelated. I went home Sunday morning, and I 100% attribute that to being in good shape. Being able to pass the test, 100%, not even debatable. Right. I was able to get up. Well, what do I need to do to leave? Well, Mr. Newman, you're in the ICU. You got up, yesterday. What do I need to do to leave? Well, you have to pass the test. I go, let me take one. I passed it. They go, you do it again tomorrow. We'll let you leave. Nice. And think about the costs of hotels, of hospitals and whatnot. So my wife picks me up out front in the same car I dropped off there 6 days earlier. We come back and we always hear that home is where the heart is.
Right.
And we get to my driveway. In my driveway, we have one of those side entrances you can go in. And all my kids are holding little signs. I love you, Daddy. Thanks for coming home. And I started crying, but I wasn't crying out of pain. I wasn't crying out of fear. I was crying out of happiness. This was my moment. I owned it. It wasn't about tomorrow. It wasn't about yesterday. It's about right now. And I'm getting these lessons on how to understand life and how to appreciate living in the moment, and how whatever happened yesterday means nothing. This is the moment for me and my family. And tears of happiness poured down my face. And I went upstairs and I fell asleep on my bed for 13 hours. Home is where I wanted to be. This is what was important, being with the people I love that inspire me to fight like I do. And like I said, I wouldn't know for 10 days the severity of it.
Okay.
But on I'll tell you what's interesting. So day 5, I'm walking around my house. I'm trying to find things that I could do. I refuse to sit there. I want to work out. I want to do all this stuff, which you can't really do. I have a second head, basically.
Yeah. You're probably in recovery mode, right? Like,
yeah,
you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, I kind of started early, but my father-in-law is on a rough road right now. So
Right.
on him. And, my wife says to me, she goes, listen, Luke, who's my oldest, my 5-year-old at the time, he has a Father's Day picnic at his school. He's at Pennington Montessori School in New Jersey. It's like kindergarten. And they have a half hour where you sit there and eat lunch with your son, and then you leave. I go, oh, I'm going to this. She goes, you don't have to go. I go, I wouldn't miss this for the world. It's not about me. It's not about my surgery. It's about Luke. So she goes, if you want, you can come with me this morning. I'm going to drop our 3 kids off, Luke, Jake, and Lola, and we're going to take them over to school. Do you want to come? I go, yeah, I absolutely want to come. And I have to put a big hat on, make sure nobody could see anything. And we take our kids to school. And my 2-year-old Lola, I grab her hand and I'm walking to her class. She gets to her classroom. She takes her little pink jacket off. She hangs it on the hook. And she looks at me and goes, I love you, Daddy. Thank you for taking me to class today. And I started to think, why don't I do this more? You know what I was the guy doing before? I was on the phone. I was on the BlackBerry. Okay, Lola, go over there. It's not about me. It's not about my moment. It's about her. And it's about the lessons that she's learning. And it's about the experience she's getting. And what we're showing them is the wrong things to do. And business and all that stuff is important. But for a couple minutes, I couldn't do that. You know where my phone was that day? It was in the car with my wife. And you're sitting there going, I'm getting a gift. I'm seeing things differently. I'm understanding life. I'm understanding about that wasn't my moment. That was Lola's moment. And it's selfish to look at it the other way. And I come home and I'm telling Larry about this, my cancer partner, because that's what he is. He was the one showing me independence, showing dignity, showing how to fight. And I'm feeling this. So Rebecca looks at me, she goes, you look messed up. You do not have to go to this lunch. I go, oh, I'm going to the lunch. God. And we get to the lunch and I walk in. And Luke comes running out of the classroom, gives me a big hug and says, thanks for coming, Daddy. I said, Luke, I never miss it. And I hold his hand and we walk back to the outdoor area where every dad's going to sit with their kid for 30 minutes having a brown bag lunch. And I'm going to tell you what I saw. I saw every single dad like this. And I went, oh my God.
That would have been you. That would have been you.
I had a BlackBerry and an iPhone at the time. I'm like, that would have been me. It took me to go through a life-altering event, which I don't know how it's going to go. It could go really bad still.
Yeah.
To understand what's really important in life, which is that lunch was not about my business.
Right.
That lunch was about my son.
About your son.
And having a father-dad moment. And my phone was in the car. It was 30 minutes. I think we could all get away from that. And sometimes we learn the greatest lessons in life when we go through these different things. The question is, will we accept it? Change breeds complacency or change breeds opportunity? And I was open to it. I was good. I'm like, so I come back home. Well, Larry, this is unbelievable. These things I'm gifted with I'm never giving them back. And as we're going through all this, his phone rings. And he answers the phone. He walks over and answers it. And that was the moment he was told to get off chemotherapy because there's nothing that could happen any longer. And his roller coaster was going down. Cancer didn't care about our connection. Cancer didn't care about the lessons we were able to correlate with each other and take things from and have support in a different way because we're both going through it, which I look at as unbelievably important to what I went through. It does what it wants, when it wants. And that's the way it goes. Here's what's different. I wasn't sad. I wasn't upset. He's a warrior. He was going to do all the fighting he did. And whatever was going to go on, it would never define him in any way. He already defined himself. He already left his own memories. And for those of us that can really see through that, we understand what a warrior really is. We understand what strength really comes from, as I mentioned earlier. So I had to go back in day 10. And I get back in there, and me and my wife go in, and he goes, okay, a few things. I go, I got some questions for you first. When can I start working out? He goes, well, technically today. I go, good, done. I'm going to the gym after this. My wife's like, oh God. He goes, don't go crazy. She goes, he's going to go crazy in the gym. Number 2, when can I play golf? He goes, well, technically now. I go, good. I'm playing golf with my dad tomorrow. I want to spend more time with him. I go, number 3, when can I go back to work? And Rebecca pipes in. She goes, he's already working. He goes, well, you can go back today. I go, good. I'm going back to work. I can't wait. He said, but here's what I want you to think about. Be smart. You know, the radiation and everything that you're going to go through, which I'll tell you about in a minute, is going to build up. Don't bite off too much. You want to go work out in the morning, you want to do all this, just be smart about it. Okay. So I said, what do you mean radiation? He goes, your cancer is more aggressive than we thought it was going to be. You have a grade 3 astrocytoma, and there's a very good chance that that's probably going to grow back. It will probably grow back in the same spot. So you're going to go on chemo and radiation. And I was like, bring it on, man, whatever. Everybody was more worried about it than I was. And when I started chemotherapy, I was put in my place very quickly on how severe it is. And I went in as a tough dude wearing a wife beater. And I was very quickly understanding that this is real and this is evil. And it's going to be very difficult. And I got my head in a good spot. I lost all my taste buds. I lost my hair. I didn't care. I don't care if I ever got them back. Jeez. It was about my children. Yeah. It was about being there for them. It was about my wife. Yeah. It was about defining the fact that their dad will do everything that he needs to do to be with them physically as long as he can, and then make sure that he's with them spiritually after that. So what's interesting is as I'm going through this, I'm this optimistic person. I'm sending these emails out to friends and family, these long messages on my perspective, my understanding, my appreciation. I get it now, all this other stuff. I have no problem sharing this with you, Sean. I did it for myself. It was like my catharsis for all the optimism I had, for the belief, the calls I was getting. Reality is you're pushing some stuff way down into your belly, and it's got to come out someplace. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to combust. My catharsis, my outlet became writing. I would write these long messages when something hit me that I needed to get out. I never read one.
Like a feeling, like how you were feeling it when this happened?
Just had to do it. Yeah. I never wrote before. I'm wondering if those are the seeds that were planted, by my mom. But what's interesting as well, too, is I told you I practice everything I preached. Right. What I didn't mention to you was when I was laying in that hospital, right before my parents came over, who you knew were going to be devastated. You hear your son has brain cancer at 39, he's going to die. And my in-laws as well. I told my wife to give me the iPad. She goes, yeah, do you want to watch a movie? They'll be here in 20 minutes. I could just give me the iPad. That was the moment I realized I needed to make sure that my family was taken care of. First thing I did is I pulled up my will. Check. My power of attorney. Check. My life insurance check. Went through everything. Nice. Sean, that was the moment I realized every speech I ever gave in my career was about me. I just didn't know it at that point. Wow. And my dad comes walking in. He's like, how you doing, buddy? I saw the fear. I saw the evilness in his eyes. He could fake it all he wants. I knew what he thought. My son's going to die. Right. And I said, Dad, come here. And I showed him everything. Oh, yeah. And I took that iPad. I threw it on the bed. I said, Dad, there's only one thing on my mind. Guess what's that? I go, getting better. I don't got to worry about my wife. I don't got to worry about my kids. They're going to maintain their same lifestyle. They're going to go to college. It's not the amount of money you have. It's that everything I ever talked about, I did. I'm the shoemaker's kids had shoes. I'm going to fight like a son of a bitch till I beat this thing. And for the first time in my life, I saw my dad cry. And he broke down. He goes, you're going to beat this. I go, I know I am. So I started to write not only on my perspective, but about that instance that happened in the hospital. And I would share this. And here's what happened. Every time I would write, which something had to trigger it, I would get, hey man, I just read this. Could you put these people on your email list? Could you put them on your email list? I was not on social media. I fought it. I never thought about it. I was like, all right, I'll put anybody who wants on it. And I started to have a better understanding of what cancer is. Cancer is like buying a car. You buy a car, you leave the lot, you see the car everywhere. In reality, the car was always there. You just never noticed it. You had a direct connection. And I noticed that cancer affects every family in some fashion or another.
Yeah.
And over the next 3 or 4 years, I'm writing messages to deal with my own stuff. Because
Right.
as I'm getting better, every 3 months, I got to go get an MRA. They got to give me the results. Don't forget, it could grow back. Then it goes to 4 months. Then it goes to 5 months. And I would go in there and they'd give me this and I'd have to find some outlet. Oh God, I got to write something.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like vomit. Like I get out and I'd be like, oh, I feel so much better. And I would go in, they'd be like, all right, Mr. Newman, I don't know what you're doing. Keep doing it. I go, please don't say the last part. Please don't say, it's probably going to grow back at some time. I'm like, you don't need to say that. I'm like, I'll see you in 3-4 months.
Right.
So what happens is I'm writing and writing. 4 years into it, we had 20,000 people following us. I was doing this for me. So I decided, maybe I'll write a book. Because that'll help alleviate all this stuff I'm doing. It'll give me something else outside of my businesses that I could do to deal with it.
Project.
Yeah. So and it's cathartic. So I write this book, and I'll tell you what happened. March 23rd, 2018. Call my mom up in Parsippany, New Jersey. I go, hey, Mom, book's coming out tonight. She goes, where's it coming out? And I go, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, book, Goodreads, whatever. Yeah. She goes, no one's ever going to buy it, right? I go, oh, God, no. I'm some jerk off. What the hell do they care about me for, right? She goes, but you'll put 3 copies in your safe. And when your kids are old enough, they'll be able to really digest what happened and have a better understanding. I said, Mom, I couldn't agree with you more. She goes, what's the title? I go, Starting at the Finish Line. She goes, I love it. 4 days later, we were #1 in 4 different categories on Amazon, and my jaw dropped. I had no expectation.
Take that, Mom.
There's parts of the story I'm not sharing on here that will blow your mind. But the reason I share this is that what it made me understand is what people are really looking for. They want someone who's been on a similar path to them. Right. My catharsis was to talk about it, to get it out, to give speeches. Next thing you know, we're doing TED Talks. I'm on ESPN. I'm traveling, and I'm going, I saw what people want. They want someone that they could correlate with, someone they can go, this isn't some shtick, some canned BS speech that I'm hearing from some dude. This is real. We're not talking about planning on, hey, buy this product, whatever. It alleviated a burden on me. Could you imagine the regret and resentment I would have had to go, oh my God, I didn't do this. Instead it was check, check, check. Yeah. Let's fight, man. Let's go down. And that defines my legacy too. That if God forbid I did go physically, spiritually, I was the person who took care of my family and gave them that comfort level when they needed some type of positivity. And I'm speaking, I'm writing for me because it became that outlet. And I never expected it to go down the path it was. And it gave me a better understanding of what people really want. People want to know they're not alone. I know that I enjoyed talking about it. Right. It was my catharsis. I also started to learn that the majority of people only want to talk about it with someone who's been through it.
Really? That makes sense.
It does. And everybody has to find their own path. There is no, pre-done way to deal with this. Everybody has to make it their own and they have to own it. But what I found was with great power comes great responsibility. We can quote that as Voltaire or Spider-Man, whatever anybody prefers on that.
We'll go with Spider-Man.
I'm cool with that too. And the reason I share that is you feel a responsibility. And I started to get calls, messages. I went on social media, direct message from people all over the world. I never thought anybody but like my close friends would read the book. And I didn't care. I literally was doing it
for you.
For myself.
Right.
But that's why I think it did so well. There was no business plan.
Right.
There was no angle.
It was just raw. It was raw. And
it's just me doing it. And if nobody read it, I didn't care because it gave me a way to outlet a combustible thing inside of me that I wouldn't have to deal with. And you started to have a better understanding of what realness and truth really do for people and how so much of the garbage that we read online, so much of the things that we see of why are we listening to that person? Who gives them the authority to make in anything like that? Then you started to realize that people are going through something. They want that honesty. They want that, I get it. And you would think it's just about cancer. I've gotten calls, messages, people going to commit suicide, people have been through other diseases, people who've lost people who had financial hardships and difficulties. Struggles. That's the word. Yeah. And what you realize, they're all encapsulated together. It's just different versions of it. Some are disease, some are this. I didn't know that before this. I thought, maybe someone going through cancer will call me or something like that. And, I don't know why they're going to call me. Call a doctor. They know better.
Right.
But you know what they want? They want someone they could talk to where they go, I get that. I do. And it's become a major part of my life. We're an ambassador for brain tumor charities. So we ran the Broad Street Run. You heard me saying that? For fun.
I know the Broad Street Run,
Yeah. And starting in 2014, we started running it to beat brain cancer, and we built teams, and we've worked with the National Brain Tumor Society, Head for the Cure. We're very proud that we raised over $150,000 to help families and to help research. And the only bummer is there is no Broad Street Run this year. So if they do a virtual one or so, we're still raising money as if it's there because we don't care. We don't, and anything we can do to help alleviate not just the cancer people are dealing with, but help support the families that need a place to stay or want to be near the hospital or something. That's something that we've really taken to. And here's an example of one of our shirts. We do them every year. This was the Broad Street Run 2019. This was last year. And we put a poem on the back as well too.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you beat the cancer.
Well, you could call it that. I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it that way. So I still go now I'm up to 6 months. It's been 7.5 years. Every 6 months, I'm going to go get an MRI.
Interesting. Okay.
And they're going to tell me the same thing. Mr. Newman, everything looks great. Don't forget, it's a grade 3. It'll probably grow back in a similar spot. And again, I'm like, just let's not do that part at the end right there. But this will be part of my life forever. And I'm okay. But this is my journey. Cancer's just riding shotgun. I own this. Majority of people allow the disease to take over their life. Oh, screw that. This is my life. You're just along with me, but I will dictate what goes on. And it's interesting. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Most people I know, friends, family, oh, when's this going to end? When are you going to have tests in? I go, if they tell me that they can catch it early and they need me to come every week, I'll come every week. I'm the only one that doesn't bother, because whatever I need to do to be that dad, to be present, to be prevalent for my family, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's incredible. And like cancer, right? It's interesting. And I want to talk about like the mindset of overcoming it, because I think the power of mindset is something that is so incredible. But first, I think you're talking about struggles, and there's all different kinds. Like cancer, like it's such a difficult one because humans, we've solved like polio, malaria. Like you said when you talked about your father-in-law Larry, like you said the cancer doesn't care. Like, you've raised money to research for cancer and stuff like that. Like, are we anywhere close to a cure? Like, this is just like the hardest, most devastating disease, right?
I will tell you that if you actually research cancer, which we do a lot of for what we do, they're actually doing an amazing job. It's not cured.
They're making progress.
Unbelievable progress. Unbelievable. The percentages of people that aren't dying from cancer now are enormous. Now, unfortunately, brain cancer is one of the top cancer killers of children. Pancreatic cancer. There's some things that we're still a ways off on, but a lot of the cancers that were taking lives 20 years ago, they're not any longer. The research has been unbelievable. And because of the technology and AI and all this stuff, it is getting done so much quicker. There will be an end game at some point. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Okay, that's great.
And I hope I'm here for that, because I'm going to have a really good bottle of champagne the day that happens to celebrate that. But I actually think the research, the way that these communities have all been working together through teledocking and connecting things through this change in a new normal we're dealing right now, I think it's been absolutely amazing. And I just can't wait to keep watching this as we go and keep fighting.
That's great. That's great. And the fact that you got it, right? The fact that you got cancer, random?
Totally.
Like it completely random. Yeah, actually, my dad passed away from ALS, which is one of the other diseases that is terrible. Kills you, and random. Like that is, and like, were you ever like a smoker, or is there any like thing? Like, it's crazy. That's the thing about it that is so like kind of fascinating to me. The fact that it's just you just a great person, a motivator, a good father. Like you said, why me? Like, it could happen to me. It could happen to anyone. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy that some diseases might come on you if you have a bad lifestyle, but this one, it just hits you randomly. And that is so crazy to me and so fascinating. It could happen to me. It could happen to anyone.
Could happen to anyone. That's exactly right.
That's insane to me and crazy. And the fact that you had such a positive attitude throughout it, do you think that's a huge factor?
No question. Because not even debatable. And I can tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead. The mindset part about it, like anything in life, I think the mindset, the way you approach it is so important. But like with cancer, I feel like some pessimistic people might say like, you know what? It's a disease. It hits you. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter your approach to it. You can't control the disease. So like, what's the point of being positive? Or they might not believe that being positive helps, but you truly believe
I don't think it's even debatable.
Not
And the
debatable.
American Medical Association will back that up. I remember this surgeon coming in to see me with my wife to basically tell me what's going on, how I'm going to have surgery and all this other stuff. My wife's wiping her eyes. He's telling me what's going on. He goes, let me tell you what we're going to do. And I'm all in the bed. And I go, let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to get this crap out of my head and I'll take care of the rest. I ain't going anywhere, man. He goes, don't move. And he brings me a study from the American Medical Association. And in this study, it talked about something called a downward spiral. And what that downward spiral basically entails, we've all heard the story, of the husband and wife. They've been married for 50 years. Husband gets cancer, he dies. Wife's healthy as a horse. What do we often find out happens 6 months later? She dies. Once you fall into this downward spiral of regret, resentment, I've seen it. Resentment, negativity, all this stuff. The odds of getting out of it are like zero. I should have done this, could have done all this other stuff. All that did is pour gasoline on my fire of, attitude's that important? I don't got to worry about any of that crap. Let's fight, man. Let's go.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Like you're sick, you go to the doctor. A lot of people want to get a pill or medicine to heal you. But in this case, the medicine is literally how you think, positive thinking. Like that is so cool to me. Like if someone has cancer and you already came into the situation with a positive attitude on life and you had your ducks in a row financially. So like you said,
I think that was part of it. So not to, but I think so. What's interesting is I don't want this misconception. Oh, you came in this I didn't know I had that in me, a lot of it, honestly. And that's in talking to other cancer patients, people who've almost committed suicide. They find this spectrum and they grab it and they just take it. And, I wish I would have known about this stuff before for certain areas. And I think I was unbelievably positive. I think, but it shed light from a perspective that was new to me. And you start to understand it. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I went through chemo and radiation, I was in this mode of, I'm going to be the first person here. Take me as soon as you can. I'm going to work out before I get there. I'm going to wear a suit and tie. I'm going to go to work. And then around 2:00, I know I'm going to have to come home, but it's my journey. I own this thing. So I said, what's the earliest I could do? They go, Mr. Newman, our earliest is 7:10. We start at 7, but we have someone at 7:00. I go, I'll be here at 5:30 if you want. They go, 7:10. I go, okay. So I would come in at 6:30 in the morning. I only live 5 minutes away from it. Suit and tie, all worked out already, beast mode. And I would see this woman come in and she would walk in with her husband. She was probably in her mid 70s, emaciated, maybe 4'11", 70 pounds. Her son would walk her to the radiation tube. He would come back and sit in the waiting room where I was at. And it's only 8 to 9 minutes. A few minutes later, he'd go back up, get her, and they'd walk out. I had to go for radiation for 6 weeks. 2 weeks into it, they come up to me. They go, Mr. Newman, the woman who goes before you is done today. Would you like the 7 a.m.? I was like, done. Earliest I can get. Love it.
Right.
They go, Mr. Newman, if you'd like, when someone finishes this amazing journey of radiation, we have a ceremony for him. We ring gongs, we celebrate, and we sing some songs. We're going to go do that in the hallway. Would you like to join us? I said, I got some work to do on my iPad. Just let me know when you guys are done. And I'll come in. She goes, okay. And I pulled my iPad up and I saw my reflection. I said, who the fuck do you think you are? We are a family. We're a family of warriors that supports each other. Who the hell do you think you are? And I put my iPad down and I walked outside into that room and I saw this emaciated woman, which we know where this was headed, with the biggest smile I've ever seen in my life. She rang that gong. Everyone is singing and all this. And I just started to cry. And I called my wife. I said, when I do this, you'll be here. You will be part of this. This is something that's a rite of passage that we all go through. And that's where I really learned what strength was. That's one of the strongest women I've ever seen in my life, because it was about that moment. She took it in, and that's something that was infectious. And that was an honor to be a part of.
That's incredible. That's so cool. So yeah, after you finish the chemotherapy, you ring the bell, and it's just like the positive attitude that everyone at the hospital has, and they're like,
it's actually the radiation part of it, believe it or not, because a lot of times the chemotherapy goes on, but you realize how it's your moment. And whatever is going to happen down the road, I don't know. Whatever happened yesterday doesn't matter. But to get through that, there's a family atmosphere to it that I'm so glad I was able to be a part of. And some people say to me a lot, they go, that's really honest of you to say that. To say
Right.
like, you go, it's 100% true. I really wanted nothing to do with it. And then you realize like, we're all in this together in some way. And that's what community is built off of.
Right.
And to not share that, I would think I'd be remiss to not do that, to share that it wouldn't be honest.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So like if somebody is diagnosed and they're in the same situation as you and they start to feel negative and they start to feel bad for themselves, your pity party only lasted 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Some other people's pity party might last a couple weeks.
Could be
And
be in perpetuity.
and the difference in that could be the difference in like overcoming it or not, right?
Yeah.
Like the positive attitude. That's so crazy. So like, and did doctors, you said doctors know this, right? So they told you about it. They
They
showed
know
you
how important
studies.
attitude. They know
So
how
like,
important attitude is.
so they definitely try to cultivate a positive spirit, it seems like, in the hospital. But then like, I would love to hear like a doctor talking to somebody your age that when it happened, like 39, that had a really negative attitude about it. Cause like I can give you the radiation and the chemo, but I need you to take this other pill and I need you to think positively. And it's like, you can't administer the pill. It's like, you have to make them think like that. And that is probably hard to do for someone who's really negative, but
It is.
it's just, and I mean, it's not as easy as taking a pill. Like it's not as easy as like other types of surgery. Like you have to do it. But I mean, it's so cool to think about inside your brain is the medicine that to heal you is, and it's just thinking positively. And that goes for cancer and like all other elements of life. Just like the positive thinking is so powerful.
I agree with you on that. And I think it's funny. I point out that fairly often a lot of the speeches that, listen, cancer may take us physically, it'll never take us spiritually. We own and define ourselves. And even though we may not be here anymore, the memories that we leave on others are the way that we acted when we were present with them. So I can't say that the attitude is going to cure everything. Listen, I'd be lying if I didn't say to you that I deal with people every single day with varieties of different kinds of diseases. It's an obligation that I take seriously, and it's something I'm proud to be a part of, to be able to help other people at difficult times in a selfless kind of way. I'm not looking for anything, but to think, why am I okay? Why am I doing all right? Maybe at some time this will come back. That would be not accurate for me not to say that doesn't come into your mind. And what you have to do is you have to allow yourself to have that, but always reach back into that belly and grab that positivity, because I don't know how long the shelf life is going to be.
Right.
But I own how I act during it.
Right.
And it's okay to be negative for a while. The key is support is really important. And the more love you have around you, the more support you have, the easier. I was gifted between my family,
right,
my children,
and you had a role model of your father-in-law.
There's no question that
somebody who showed strength in a similar situation, and that probably showed you a little bit of a roadmap about how to pull that strength out.
I think that happened for a reason. I used to believe things didn't. I used to believe in irony. There's no way in my mind that didn't happen for a reason. So he could show me the way to act, how to carry myself. And the difference is many people don't want to adapt to change. I don't want to start doing virtual meetings instead of doing regular meetings. I don't want to do webinars instead of in-person speaking. Change breeds complacency or breeds opportunity, as I meant before. It's okay to open yourself up regardless of your age and accept new things that maybe you weren't right on.
I love change. Yeah.
And I do too.
I think it's so healthy. Such a healthy thing for a mind to do is like just change up your habits. I think
it's real. And when I explain this a lot to people, it's, if I was this stoic, oh, I know everything, whatever, maybe I would have done that. But I was okay with that. I was a spiritual person. I'm not that religious. And
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm not. I believe in spirituality 100%.
Yeah.
One day we're getting ready to go to one of my MRI exams, and my wife prays a lot. And again, she's like, I'm Jewish. You know? Okay. So she says to me, she goes, I want you to say a prayer. I'm like, hon, we do that. That's your thing. And we're laying in bed. She goes, I want you to do me one favor. I go, yeah. She goes, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to ask all your grandparents who are no longer with us on this earth to look out for you when you go in for this one. Because there was some news we would get that, hey, maybe this will happen, that'll happen. So, I go, fine. I don't want to do it. I'm doing it to make her happy.
Yeah.
She sees tears start pouring out of the sides of my eyes. And she's just kind of leaning over me, and I open my eyes. She goes, pretty crazy, huh? I'm like, you have to be open to change. You have to be willing to say, maybe someone's going to give me an idea that might work. Maybe it won't. But why would I be so hard-headed to not try it? As it maybe it could be something that helped me have a better life and appreciate things more. And I'll never forget that moment laying in that bed. Do I pray all the time? No. Do I consider myself religious? No.
Okay.
Do I see it from a different light? No question. Not even debatable.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not the most religious person, but like I'm always interested in the topic because
Me too.
It's been around for so long, and there's definitely something there that like is unexplainable, like that has a positive effect. Even just praying for something, I mean, it reminds your mind about it over and over, which might bring it into existence. And I actually was going to ask you. That's funny that you said that.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason, because like I always question that statement because I like to look at it like things happen, and then people can shape the things that happen into look at it from a positive light. But like, you truly believe everything happens for a reason? Because that sounds kind of like religious in a way. That means like there's some type of divine path.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give you my thoughts on this. So my thoughts are that I had a couple things start to happen to me that were too ironic. The woman, I had to get what's called an EKG, an EEG, excuse me. An EEG is where they put all these things on your head. And for 24 hours, they have to monitor you before surgery. They can see, hey, if I hit here, hit there, like bad things are going to happen. They thought I was going to lose my speech. I mean, I can tell you that right now. They thought there was a good chance that was going to happen. So when this woman's doing that, it takes about 3 hours to put all this stuff on. You got to remember, I'm in a hospital with like 1,000 rooms. This isn't like a cancer person. This is a person who's just, a tech like a nurse doing that.
Okay.
Everybody leaves the room. And she looks over. So she's behind me, putting this stuff on me. And she's like, Mr. Newman, can I talk to you? I go, yeah, no problem. I have pictures of this. Mm-hmm. She goes, can I tell you something? I go, yeah. She goes, I had the same type of brain tumor 7.5 years ago. And next thing you know, I'm talking to this woman. I'm feeling the scar on her head. Mm. She's telling me about the issue she has now, the issue she doesn't have any longer. There is no way in my mind she was randomly in that room with me. She's not a cancer person. This wasn't a cancer thing. It's an EEG, which is static to be on every floor of that hospital. There is no way that the woman who went through this is the one doing this with me that I could have a conversation with nobody in the room. And there's a picture of her in my book.
That's amazing.
That's a moment you're like,
who put her there?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it went through but it's not like it was, hey, they specialize in this.
Right.
At all.
That's incredible.
Could have been anywhere. Amazing. She could have been anywhere. She could have been, bringing someone in a wheelchair. She could bring a urination pan. So, I mean, that's what you look at and you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, really? So of all these rooms in this enormous hospital,
that's crazy. Yeah.
2 of us have had the same thing that are sitting in there. So I wouldn't count the religion. I don't use the word religion too much.
Okay.
I use the word spiritual. Only because do I know what's out there? No. Right. Do I think there definitely is? I don't know.
I mean, no one
does.
Do
I think there could be something? Yeah. Do I think it has anything to do with religion? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just know that too much started to happen to me, whereas it's not changing my religious views. It's not changing my views on divine intervention. I don't know about that. But I'm starting to think, but I started to encompass more that some of the things that were happening for a reason, because it was too ironic.
Yeah.
But I'll know more one day. Yeah, hopefully it's not for a long time, man. Hopefully it's not for a long time.
It's not going to be for a long time.
I hope not, man.
That's crazy. And yeah, I mean, Matt, it's such an inspirational story. Like I love it. And like, is there anyone that like as an inspiration yourself, like, is there anyone out there in the world that like inspires you today? Like, is there anyone that you look at and you're like, that's inspiration? Because I'm sure a lot of people look to you and they're like, what an inspiring guy. Is there anyone you look to and you're like, that's an inspiring guy or an inspiring person?
It's a good question. I'm going to say something that most people wouldn't expect to hear.
Okay.
My wife and kids.
Okay.
I don't need them to say anything. I don't need them to do anything. They're going to misbehave. They're going to yell. We're going to have all these issues. I just appreciate that I'm here with them. And I also understand better there's a shelf life on that. Hopefully it's when I'm 100 years old. I don't know.
Right.
But one of the things I've noticed, the mistakes that people make, and I'll share this with you.
Yeah.
That they learn these lessons in life. Sometimes you have someone who loses a ton of weight. You have somebody who goes back to school and gets a degree. You have someone who goes through a disease and something bad happens. I notice the majority of people, once the further they get from what they've been through, They give back the lessons they were gifted with, and they go back to
Mhm.
old ways. I will never do that. I told the surgeon one time, I said, I wish you didn't do such a good job. He goes, what? So I have a scar if I shave my head that you'll see it's a huge C. If you see it in the book, it goes all the way over to here. Yeah, huge staples, everything. He goes, what do you mean? I go, every time I get in a bad mood, every time something bothers me, I'd love to look in my rearview mirror, see that scar and go, calm down. It's not that big a deal. So I had to find a way for me to never give back those lessons, something that would always remind me of it. And that's where this all came from.
Your tattoos. I saw that. I was going to ask you about the tattoos. Yeah,
So
did you get all your tattoos like post like the cancer and
all
everything?
these.
Yeah.
I have other ones.
You have other ones too?
Stupid 18-year-old kid doing dumb things, but all these were meant for a story, So the beginning of it was, I would send out all these quotes, these messages. I started on social media on my perspective, and all these people started following me, and I don't even know anything about it. And a guy sends me, who's a friend of mine, sends me, goes, man, dude, you're like a lion. You should put pictures of lions in, like, it just reminds me of you. And I'm sitting there going, the hell do I care about a lion for? Like, why would you say that? And that's up in the corner of my screen right here. And I'm writing stuff for myself to make me feel good.
Right.
And I always say, this is my journey. Cancer is just along for the ride. I own this. And I'm looking at this picture of a lion going, I'm the king of the jungle. I'll just rip your fucking head off if you don't like it. I'm like, oh, maybe I could combine these. Sorry for the word right there.
Yeah,
so the first thing I did is I went to Bang Bang in New York, and I had him do a lion here. So I would never give it back.
That's a badass lion.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So then what happened is I talk about it's the heart of the lion and a fight of a warrior.
Okay.
And I was gifted that one of the top guys in Greece flew in to Brooklyn, and he had a father who dealt with cancer and read some of my stuff. So I went into Brooklyn, and he did a warrior for me right there, which you can't really see too good, but you can see it that way.
A warrior, like what kind of warrior? Like
it's a Roman warrior type
warrior,
helmet, but it's the positioning of you fight.
Yeah.
So what happens is I decided I wanted to continue. I wanted this to be my story.
That's really cool.
One of the best there is a guy named Dennis Sivak who owns Love Machine in Manhattan.
Okay.
He is one of the most amazing people, one of the greatest artists I've ever seen. He's right down in the Soho area. So I set up a time to go see him. And he owns Love Machine with his partner, Vitaly. They're both from the Ukraine. Before I get there, Vitaly's mom comes down with brain cancer. He's like, can I give her your number, all this stuff? I go, absolutely, 100%. So he did this helmet for me right there of a warrior in a lightning storm. And he said, we will not take a penny.
Really?
I said, you're out of your mind. He goes, no. He goes, this is what we do. So he did that. Then he did the 3 cubs, because that's who I fight for, which is right next to my heart.
Oh, nice. The lion and the 3 cubs.
And then the compass and the sand clock. I'm sorry if you can't see that there. About being where you are and live in the moment right now. And that's my story. I did it for me. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I did it so every time I take a shower, every time I take my shirt off, I never give back these gifts that I've been granted.
Yeah, that's important because, like you said, some people might just get cured, move on, and not
see it all the time. I know people like that who all of a sudden they're the same person they were. And I'm like, you gave back the gift.
That's amazing.
Don't do that.
And I think it's interesting that you said, like your family is like your inspiration. Like, cause I'm getting married in like a month or something.
Oh, nice.
It got pushed back because of the virus, but
sure.
I'm sure I'll start. You said you had your kid 9 months after you got married. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I'll probably who knows, starting a family soon. And I always am interested in, because I'm a business person. Like me and my fiance, we're very hardworking and working on my company all the time. I was, when you were talking about the dads on their phone, I was like, damn, that's probably going to be me. But
it was me. It was me, by the way. Let me make that clear. That was me.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I want to ask you. So like, when you didn't have a kid and then you did have a kid, your first son, right? Like, people always talk about that moment where like, you can never actually know what it feels like to have a kid until you have one. And I'm always like, I get it. It's very special. I think I can understand it. Like, and I think I can like start to mentally prepare for it. Like, am I wrong? Or like, is that moment, that's something I can never understand until
you'll never understand it.
I can't.
There's nothing like holding that brand newborn that's yours. It's not a nephew.
Right.
Not a niece. It's yours. It's life-changing. And It's true. Everybody who's giving you that information is exactly right. It will change you. It might not change behaviors to an extent, but you're going to see there's times all of a sudden I was a workaholic. I couldn't wait to get home and see my son.
Yeah. See, I always feel that's one thing I've been trying to warn myself of, because I mean, I'm a workaholic too. I'm a happy guy, but like, I always say that I feel like a lot of people, they have kids, and then all of a sudden their entire life focuses, and they kind of quit their career a little bit and like kind of put all their energy towards their kids. And like, I feel like if you can have a kid, but then can still stay like a little bit selfish for your career, like
Work-life balance.
Yeah,
I talk about it all the time.
you just gotta balance it out.
Yeah, work-life balance. I mean, listen, there's little things I've learned. Like if we're having dinner as a family, I don't bring my phone to the dinner table. Let's be honest here. That's 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, you look it down and go, is that really that big a deal? Like, I mean, my kids play sports, all that other kind of stuff, and I watch it all. But if I have to, if I'm a fan and I'm sitting there and I have to check my phone for a client, you could do it. You find ways to do it when they're not seeing you on it all the time.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're teaching them this is acceptable.
Right.
And that's the hardest part to digest, is what they're seeing us do must be the right thing so they can keep doing it. And teaching them hard work, teaching them grit. You heard me talk at the beginning. I said, hey, my dad said there ain't no free lunches. Go earn it yourself.
Right.
That's the environment we want to build.
Right.
But there comes a work ethic along with that. But it's also making sure that the message is being delivered. And you're going to look at it, like I said at the beginning, through a completely different set of lenses when that happens. Everybody's giving me that advice. All the preparation, the financial part, that's easy. Because if you notice when I'm talking about the financial part, that's all legal documentation. That's an obligation that we have to do.
Right.
But if you really think about it, you don't know how it's going to be until it actually happens.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It is. Listen, we had 3 in 3 years. They are my fight. They are my reason. They are why I do everything that I do. So I can find that cathartic way to be a better person, to be with them.
That's amazing. Do you ever like get sick of telling your story? Like, I know, because I know you've told it a lot, and like it's so inspiring. And I was listening to you a little bit, but just hearing it, like just talking to you now, it's like incredible. And I was holding back a little tears. I was holding back a little tears, getting shivers. But like, I know you've probably told it many times. Like,
oh yeah.
Do you ever get sick of it?
No, you know why? Because it depends. Like I now speak everywhere. I do webinars and everything all the time because there's no travel. So it depends on the room I'm speaking in. There's a lot I speak about how to connect deeper with people. I have a better understanding of what people want. When I saw those people cling on to my writing and all that, it's because of connection. And you understand that it's not about, wearing a suit and tie and giving some BS response to somebody. It's about learning what's important to them, what means something. So I do a lot of big speeches for very large companies.
Yeah.
Where it's a combination of the two. And then I have some where it's like, we want you to hit the story. I'm like, that's great. Yeah. I'll do it however you, but every speech I give is from the heart. So these conversations we're talking about today, I don't have notes. There's no pre-canned.
Right.
Getting real, pure, raw emotion. And the only downside of that is when you go on these large speaking circuits and all stuff, I look very differently at the guys who do that.
Really?
I'm like, you're really going to tell the same crap, the same, like reading off cue cards and say, I know you're not reading off them, but I get it. People want to feel something where they feel it's really coming from the heart. And that's what mine is. And listen, I don't write as much as I used to. People go, yeah, you don't write. Why? Because I speak so much.
Right.
This was all about my catharsis. This wasn't about a business plan of, hey, let's write a certain amount.
Speaking's like the modern day writing, because when we were recording it, it's like I only listen to audiobooks anyway whenever I read books. So it's like we're kind of writing in a way.
Yeah.
So it's a change in technology.
Nobody knew what a vlog was. It was a blog for a long time. And what I also started to get a better understanding of was you can sit there and talk to people about, you could bring in the person who did this and they did this life-changing experience and all that. How deeply does it really resonate with the person in the crowd? And that's where I think meeting planners and all this, most of them don't get it. And I'll give you a point of what I'm saying here right now. How many emails were you getting about webinars and things you can get on for your business, the show, or anything else on updates on COVID-19 where we're like, dude, enough, man. Like, I don't care. Let me give you updates on the market. Don't care. They come out every day. I can go look at that on my own. Right. What could you do that allows me to go do something that has people saying, thank you, Sean. That really meant a lot to me to hear something like that. Thank you
Right.
for giving me that book. Thank you
Right.
for doing something nice for my children. Thank
Right.
you for addressing the fact that college is going to be difficult this year. What are we really doing to build moats around people? Because all that other stuff, that's going to be gone soon, and yet people still do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, and maybe if some people to listen to you and they might not take it all in at that time, but then once they get that struggle in life, they can maybe pull and like and be like, oh yeah, that one guy, like if he can go through that, like I can go through this. And
If it
uh
helps them do that,
yeah,
because I wrote it for me, there's nothing that makes me happier than it did something positive for someone. Because I could tell you,
yeah.
it was only meant to do something positive
Right.
for
Yeah.
myself.
What was that feel? What was that feeling like when your mom thought you were really going to sell 3 books and then
I was with her
it became a
100%.
bestseller?
Yeah,
But then
I didn't,
it became a bestseller. Like,
yeah.
were you thrilled? And like,
Shocked,
shocked,
shocked.
right? And like, I feel like a lot of people at that point, maybe with less life experience or younger, they might get like a big head and they might get a little cocky, like, oh, I'm a big star now. And like, did you have any of that feeling, or you had already been through so
So
much that you were just
I'll tell you
grateful?
one more funny story. It's good. So I'm
Okay.
out in Arizona, and I did a speaking thing one time with one of the greatest people in the world, a guy named Anthony Robles. Anthony Robles is the wrestler who had one leg and won the national championship at Arizona State, won the ESPY award. One of my favorite people in the world, him and his girlfriend Laura. And me and my wife have become good friends with them. So when
That's
we're out
awesome.
in Arizona, if I'm giving a speech or something, and my wife and I love it out there, we always go meet them for dinner. So we go meet them for dinner. I want to say it was maybe a month or two after the book came out. And we go to this restaurant, and we're all excited to just spend some time with them. It's just such great people. And I go to the bathroom and I come back, and there's a book with a marker on it. And they have this all, I go, the hell is this? He's like, you got to sign that for me. I'm like, why? What do you want my signature for? We get in an argument because I'm going, what do you want my signature? So they have a picture of me signing it. My face is bright red like a tomato. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Why are you telling me to sign this? So I will tell you, it was humble from day one that I was calling him out, going, I'm not signing that. What do you want me to, it's a friend of mine. What do you want me to do that for?
Yeah.
And that was my perspective the whole time. Like, who wants that? Now, where I do like doing that, I will be honest with you. So when I give these big speeches, we do a lot of signing of books. It always means something to me when I can write a message to someone.
Mm,
Hey, my wife is going through something. That's different.
right.
Sometimes that'll be that little igniter
Right.
that helps.
Right.
And that is an honor to do that kind of stuff. And I'll sit at these booths for hours because people want to tell you their story and all this. And I have to bring my wife or other people in our business, in my company, to help me do this, because I'll sit there all day. If that's your cathartic way of talking it to me, I'm never going to impede that in any way.
You got to have someone like move along.
You do. No, you really, I am not making that up. You really do, because I'm not going to do it. And they know I'm not going to do it, because to me, that's disrespectful.
Right.
But at the same time, then there's a guy waiting in line for like 3 hours or something.
Right.
So it's one of those, if someone else does, that's fine. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, because I would never want to rain on someone's parade like that and let them know that I'm not listening. And that's the crossing point. So to me, I'm just some jerk off who grew up in North Jersey who just wants to fight like hell for his wife and kids and found a way to get it off his chest.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolute inspiration. I think so many people can take a lot away from that, especially people with cancer, but also anyone going through struggles. Just the way that you had a recognition of a new perspective of life and the way that you stayed positive. And it's just really powerful stuff. And I think there's a lot people can take away from that. So
thank you so much for letting me share it. I mean, can't tell you how much it means to me.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate it. Any other thoughts or anything to add?
Well, if anybody, so the name of the book, I'll tell you,
yeah, absolutely.
2 points over here. You can go on any of the Amazon website, Kindle, all that
and
stuff.
we'll link it up. We'll link it up in the podcast notes for sure.
Awesome. The one thing I would say is my website is Matthew, MATTHEW, Newman, NEWMAN.com. Matthew S. Newman. The only human being that calls me Matthew is my mom. So let me just throw that one out there. But the reason I share that is, one, anybody can contact us on there. We could do notes for people. We connect with people that way. We get a lot of messages through that fashion, or all of our handles are on that as well too. But it also has, we were on ESPN. We've done 3 TED Talks, all that stuff's on there too. So if it's just something you need to watch or share with someone to inspire them, that's your easiest way of garnering all that information.
Awesome. All right, Matt, an absolute inspiration. And thank you so much for coming on. You're the man.
Thank you so much for having me. It's absolutely my pleasure.
All right. Thank you.